I want to go over this article, which is where the video is of walking around the Jeep. It's long, I mean long. There's no way I can read every word of it. But I want to point out who owns the land. And it's not Daniel's father, who came up from Georgia to do what's turned into Black Lives Matter protests. Let's go through some of this. Okay, 18 hours before he went over to that girl, where they went over, they were drunk, and they had, what they're not telling you is they did have a hot night in the backyard in a tent. Disappeared just hours after sending her a desperate final text message. Okay, but that's not the point. I want to get to who owns the land. Robinson's case has been cited as evidence that the media spends too much time on Gabby Petito, and yet this guy has been ignored. Bullshit. Bullshit. J-Chuck. All you have to do is sign up for one of these with the father and go there. It won't have any idea nor care who you are. This is what you're going to be in, is this. No father's going to go out there and search with you personally. He couldn't keep up with you more than 50 feet. But that's what it's going to be. You go to that web page and you just sign up to be notified of this group meeting with a stand with the pop and a band, and the news is there. Right at the same place where the Jeep went missing, or the Jeep was found. Even a year later, they're still doing the same thing a year later. First couple times, no problem, but they're still doing this a year later. I will put this link. Her guest, Lynette Graybull of the Native Daughters Foundation, called the media's lack of focus on Robinson's case systemic racism. He's a big corporation now. It's got to be based on this, or you ain't getting no place. Other media outlets have carefully skirted Robin's relationship with Caitlin, who he only met once while delivering alcohol to her home. So see, this article, you're getting actual information, not sanitized bullshit. CNN had a piece on how black people are frustrated, but again, Caitlin's existence was nowhere to be found, even though it is in the key report prepared by Buckeye Police. When he turned up with a booze order at her home, Caitlin and a friend who was with her invited him in, and it was steamy. It was steamy, but you're not being told. Missing person. They won't show you the police report, nor can you find it. I think this is the number 210-623-079. Media outlets, however, have failed to mention a key part of police report, that he had become obsessed with the Phoenix woman. That's sanitized. Okay, now here's the video. There's the video. By June 20, his message was, "I love you." She tried to rebuff him. Anyway, this appears just the same bullshit you've seen. He took 15 hours to respond with his final text to her. 18 hours after that, he vanished. Police were so alarmed at Robinson's messages, he hardly knew that they advised Caitlin about stalker laws. It's not saying he was doing nothing wrong. No. There's no stalker. She told him to buzz off, and he did. Workmate Roger Prutzman also was concerned about his colleague. He told police he knew something was wrong. When he asked Robinson what was bothering him, he replied, "What if there was a girl you liked, but you couldn't have?" There's nothing wrong with this. Nothing. But he was going through issues, and it could be a coincidence that he showed up crashed a few hours later. It could be a coincidence. His father, disabled Army vet David Robinson, he's great. Father's great. You know, he apparently got hurt over there in Afghanistan. Okay, he was injured by a roadside bomb. He didn't have any problems playing video games. He taught himself how to play the French horn. He taught himself how to play trombone. It's all great. Great. He was working hard to try to get it out nationally for 3 months straight, said Robinson, who's communicated with other families about the national coverage disparity. Some of that is there. Some of that is there. His GoFundMe has gotten him $142,000. $142,000, and this was way back when. It's okay. Daniel Robertson's was last seen on June 23rd when he turned up for work at a remote desert site that builders are hoping to develop. It was an abnormally cool and rainy day for the area. He met up with pump technician Ken Elliott, who he had never met before, and they were to work on a deep well. There's just some more social get-togethers they still have to this day. The GoFundMe is probably up to $1 million. If Daniel Robinson is found, that all stops. All of that stops. Elliott told police that Robinson was saying things that did not make sense, such as if he wanted to go with him to Phoenix to rest. Elliott told him he had work to do. But just 15 minutes after he arrived, Robinson abruptly left without a word. He followed the tracks in the rain-soaked dirt road and found that instead of going left at the T-junction to go back out to the highway not far away, instead they turned right into the unrelenting Sonoran desert. Now, he said that he went west further out into the desert. No, he went south. He went south. Okay, helicopters, drones, as usual, failed to find his slate blue Jeep Renegade. That's normal. You can't search 1,000,000 miles of desert and see a person laying out on the ground. Rancher Brandon Shelton, in other words, Farmer Brown, who owns half of Arizona, 1 million He eventually discovered it on July 19th, nearly a month after Robinson's disappearance. Don't forget this name, Shelton. Brandon Shelton actually is the person that Jay Chuck or whoever should be contacting. You're going to get nowhere with the father. This is a huge, huge black versus white worldwide issue. It was on its side. The vehicle's airbags. Certainly there's potential to divert something when he stripped off and wandered away from his car. Where he stripped off and wandered away from his car. I think he was stripped down. Not that he stripped himself down. Especially with one boot being under the vehicle. Rancher Shelton, whose cattle graze 14,000 acres in the Buckeye area, is convinced the car had only been in the ravine that leads to the Hassayampa River. Hassayampa River is Wagner Wash. A short while when he came upon it. Well, he's wrong. He's just saying he means well, but he's mistaken. His evidence is it was clean, Shelton 43, and my cows would have found it. Cows are inquisitive creatures and would have licked it. So his DNA evidence is to go over the vehicle to see if cows come up and licked it. Hey, that farmer with his millions of acres, great guy. It's not evidence to go over the vehicle to see if cows come up and licked it. He just simply didn't notice it. Shelton pointed to one of Robinson's size 11.5 Red Wing, expensive you can get. Daniel Robertson, that guy had money. Work boots that was stuck under the truck. Farmer Brown, Shelton says that makes no sense. If you were delirious and ripped all of your clothes off and wandered into the desert, you wouldn't stick one of your shoes under the car. My personal theory is that someone deliberately wrecked that vehicle out there. Now, it wasn't transported there and nobody drove it and deliberately wrecked it where they could have been killed. Daniel Robinson drove that Jeep, quite possibly while being chased by the person of interest that saw him last 45 minutes before. That is now top secret. Top secret. Nobody can trace him. He believes that he went on an all-night video game binge. Well, that's probably true. He was hungover, tired, and took a nap where he couldn't be found. That's why he was driving in his socks. At that point, I think somebody, not a good person, found him. Well, that's not impossible. I don't think they found him. I think they probably, if that happened, it was probably the person that confronted him in Wagner Wash and could have possibly chased him. Remember, this person of interest that saw him last totally wiped off the record. He said, well, he seemed normal to me. He seemed, well, what do you think he's going to say? Vehicles, he says, I believe the vehicle was crashed a couple of times. No, it was not. Pointed out Jeep Renegade's airbag control module showed that the car was driven 11 miles. It was not. After the airbag deployed, it most certainly was not. They're mistaken. Looks like a bat or a pipe. Could be a large rock. Anything blunt. Okay, when he hit, the rear wheels went up into the other side of the ravine. It's, if they want to look into something, could a person hit like that and hit the front windshield, but then because on the hillside, then drop back down where the windshield is then exposed? They won't do it. They won't do it. The driver's seatbelt was buckled. And despite the severe damage to the Jeep, no blood was found inside. He could have broke his neck. He could have broke his neck. Robin's wallet, phone, and credit cards were all in the car. His clothes, t-shirt, jeans turned inside out, shorts, orange vest, work vest. He would have still had on the work vest, boots, and 2 mismatched black socks were all nearby. One of the socks is Nike, the other Adidas. But the private detective says they're both matched. Now, he saw the one sock under the bush. Somebody going along in the dune buggy sometime probably stopped, had to do their business. They do not match. McGrath found another black Nike sock 3 miles away in the desert. He cannot explain it. Well, I can. You know, it's not a matched sock. He just found a sock in the desert, and everyone knows where everybody finds one sock. Anyway, that's it.